just be the department's reaction to, you know, what happened not only in Dallas less than a week ago or about a week ago, but again this weekend in Baton Rouge?
Well, we go through the natural bereavement process, and you know, everybody's going to grieve this and feel their own personal, have their own personal feelings towards this event. Obviously, everybody's in great sorrow, and as a department, we're concerned because what we're seeing is unprecedented throughout the country. We've never seen these type of events come so quickly and rapidly and from week to week. Eventually, we're seeing something that is really catastrophic, and it almost, I think, what's concerning is that we're concerned about is that what's the next biggest event.
How does that make you guys think about right here in our own city where you guys are out there patrolling and knowing that it could be here? I mean, honestly, it's so random. Sometimes there's no reason. How do you guys kind of prepare for that?
Well, you know, we're a department and we're a service of action. So it's good for us. We're able to go in and talk and figure out what we're going to do in terms of changing what we're doing. It's an asymmetrical approach to law enforcement. So basically what we're doing is we're looking at our shift changes, we're looking at our tactics, we're looking at the training we give our deputies. Right now we're in the process of doing a situational awareness training for them, a roll call training for all staff, all our deputies throughout the department. And this will help them feel more comfortable in their day-to-day operations.
Can you go into kind of maybe some details about situational awareness? I know you can't always say everything, but just kind of maybe some examples of, of what they need to prepare for.
Well, you know, it's going to stem from everything from the way they communicate to their day-to-day functioning, from how they travel from and back to work, how they handle the calls. You know, this event in Baton Rouge, you would take that event, look at it, critique it, and figure out what approach may we take tactically to do things differently. So we can learn from these events. We don't want these events to be in vain for any officer, not only locally but throughout the country, and sit there and say, how can we better our situation for our deputies, for the citizen, to make them safer? Excuse me. So we would take that event, look at it, and say, what do we need to do differently? So that's the asymmetrical approach, doing something different.
Have you guys ever had to do this before? Obviously this isn't the first time something tragic like this has happened, but are you looking at it differently every single time? You know, is there something different you guys feel like you have to do every single time something happens?
Well, that's what makes us a safe department, safe community, is that we do take events, literally every incident that's done, typically a supervisor, or whether it's a field supervisor, or whether it's a tactical supervisor, they will take an event. Initially they'll brief on it, they'll go do the event, and then they'll come back and they'll debrief, and that's where we get our information on how to do things better. So we should always be looking on how to look at keeping our officers safe by saying, hey, we're going to do this a little bit different, and we can change things so we're not predictable. That's where we want to be.
The times we're living in, do you feel like it's too late to just change things after something bad happens? Do you feel like there's some changes you guys need to make permanently or from here on out for the safety of your department?
No, I think everything needs to be evolving. These incidents, like I said, we're coming more frequently. We can't pigeonhole ourselves into a certain way of doing things, because then I think we're compromising what we do in terms of tactics, the way people see us, the way we do our business. So obviously I would always encourage to be embedded deeply in the community, because we can't bunker down, so to speak, and withdraw. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to keep people safe. So we need to be more entrenched in the community, communicate more strongly with them, get them more involved so we can keep each other safe. It should reciprocate.
How would you say life has just changed for law enforcement?
Well, again, I think obviously I think the communication will broaden, the information will broaden. We're getting more information on the state and federal level, so we'll be able to pass that on. Information is critical, intelligence is more critical, and we need to be able to share that information to keep each other safe. So that part is very critical. I think the part that we're very concerned about in terms of an agency, obviously there's been a deficit recently with the county, so funding is a huge issue. We're trying to inch further and further closer to being an intelligence-based law enforcement agency, but we need the support of the commission to maybe look at a public safety tax for law enforcement, because those are the things that we can do to proactively keep the citizens and the deputies safer.
Sure. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank. As far as the things that have happened recently and just people's growing tensions, I guess, with, you know, community and law enforcement, how would you describe relationships with the community and how important that is these days to really make it clear that you're there for the community, given with everyone's own personal opinions, you know, whether they think you guys are there for them or not there for them? How is that reflecting what you guys think is how you should interact with people?
Well, it's absolutely imperative we interact with the community. I think we have a very strong relationship, but those are things that are constant. Those can never be, you can never withdraw from them. In a relationship, the issue just grows stronger and stronger. So the more outreach we have to whatever entity is, or whatever nonprofit organization or neighborhood association or faith-based group, educators, business people, whoever they are, we reach out to everyone. We don't limit it to any certain group. We need to be as far-reaching as possible. So the more far-reaching our department is, I think the more effective and safer we're going to be.
Sure, and I don't know if you mentioned this explicitly, but I know that APD had said they were kind of doing the buddy system and trying to send people in groups or together, at least in pairs. Is that something you guys are thinking about adopting, or if you already said it, forgive me, but is that something you guys are doing?
I'm glad you brought that up. That's something that we've been practicing since I've been back. So we've been preparing long before these incidents have happened. When we went out last year to talk to the field deputies, we had encouraged them to ride along because we encouraged team policing. Because what we were seeing, there was a trend of deputies being at risk, whether it were officer-involved shootings or being run down by vehicles. We had seen that these things have started to escalate. So we started encouraging them to ride along. We gave them the latitude to do that on their own, give them the discretion so they'd feel safer. So we've been practicing this for longer than these incidents have been going on just recently. We've been doing this for over a year. And obviously I think the results show, because we haven't had anybody seriously injured. And we know these things worked. We've actually encouraged, and I think publicly, for other law enforcement agencies to do this, and I'm glad they're following suit.
And so that's not something you guys plan on pulling back from and just putting back on when something happens. That's just something you guys believe in doing.
Whenever it comes to the officer safety, we'll always give them the latitude, the discretion to do the things that they need to do to feel safer. And if that means riding together, then they always have that.
I guess, you know, I'm asking a lot of these questions that are probably repetitive, so I apologize. That's but, you know, how important is trust to the department? Obviously, you want people to trust you. You want to trust the people when you're out there. So how has that become just so important, especially in light of recent events?
Well, trust is, I think, the basis of any relationship. So I think we have a good relationship with the community. Obviously, we're a community-based law enforcement agency. We can't do it. You can't do it enough. Our officers obviously have a duty, and most times they're answering calls for service. But I think every opportunity they get, whether they're having lunch or they have an opportunity to stop by whether it's a community center or some other place, or just seeing somebody on the road or whatever, it's always an opportunity to do something. And I think just from the level of there's accommodation I get, that there's a strong trust. People really revere and I think really love their deputies, and I think they do have a great service. So we just continue to reinforce that.
Perfect. And can you think of anything else you want to add or that I didn't say just on this topic, and anything else you feel like is important for people to know?
I think it's extremely important for people to know how important that however the message comes out of the media in supporting law enforcement and the citizens to be safer, is that things are placed in context correctly. I think the more that we do that, the safer communities we're going to have, the better off we're going to be as citizens. And obviously we all have friends, family, and children, and aging people that are our family members or friends that we're concerned about. I think anything we can do to help build on that, no matter where you're from or where you live or you're coming here, is going to be extremely important for us to be safe.
Okay. Can you think of anything I didn't miss? I probably maybe repeat a couple things. So no, I think that's great. I think I got